Episode number 180 with Clayton Fletcher. Again. Welcome to the Heads Up Poker Podcast. This is Steve Barton.
This is Mike Snyderman.
And this week we are bringing back Clayton Fletcher. We're going to do some WSOP hands. I'm pretty excited, Mike. This is going to be like an all strategy podcast.
Oh, yes.
I could barely sleep last night.
I was going to watch some paint dry, but you gave me this other option, and I flipped a coin.
And it landed on Strat.
Yes.
How have you been the last week?
Pretty good. Nothing much going on. Up a little bit at cash this week.
Nice.
I don't know what else is. Steve, do you think we have a listener out there who actually thinks this show is scripted? Probably not. I think they're smart enough to realize that we just get on here.
Just completely shoot to shit. I have no idea.
Steve, we haven't talked crypto in a while. I mean, we talked about my Coinbase account, but the actual price of the stuff and where's it going and I've gotten absolutely. I mean, I think you got the same breakdown. If you got a lot of this altcoin shit, that stuff has just gotten murdered.
Yeah.
I mean, Bitcoin from its high right now is probably down. I don't know, 65% or something. But these altcoins, most of them are 90%. And I mean, just in the last 2 months, this is even before I've lost it. Like basically, they've gone down 40% compared to Bitcoin. You know, Bitcoin's gone down 25%, and the rest of these have gone down like 60% or something like that. So it's just, I haven't looked at the numbers, but I mean, I basically have lost altogether with this. Rather, if I had pure Bitcoin, I would have like 5 Bitcoin more, probably.
Yeah.
At least. I've lost 2 Bitcoin in the last since mid-April. That much I know, in terms of the overall portfolio value. And from the very beginning, I mean, there's still a chance one of these have a breakthrough. I don't know. Basically, I'm just looking for one little explosion of this, and then other than maybe Neo and maybe Monero, I have about 7 or 8 other ones that I'm just desperate to dump. But at this point, I'm going to let them go to nothing before I sell them, I think.
That's kind of where I'm at. I'm like, I mean, I just have, and they're just worth so little compared to what I bought them with. I'm like, is it really even, should I even pull out the 1,500 that I've got in there right now and just say, fuck it, or just let it ride? Because I think I just got to let it ride. I don't know.
Well, if it does have any sort of big, of course there is the magical 6 weeks we always talk about where all these altcoins just exploded. December, January. It's probably never it will duplicate, I'm thinking. But if for some reason they do have a month where, like, let's say Bitcoin gets to 14,000 and then kind of holds, but all the alts surge. Yeah. I'm just going to try to sell all the alts though and stick with Bitcoin. Yeah. I'm just waiting for that one run where they have a big surge, and then I already have sell orders on them, but my sell orders are so unreasonable. They require such a massive increase, so I should go on and change those. But those things are just shit. I mean, you never know. You never know. One of these you could hit a home run with, but it'll probably be a new project. A lot of these are probably, I don't even know what they are. They're probably old. I mean, everyone says that Zcash and Monero will always be around, but it doesn't mean that they won't have a lot of competition and they'll be like gaining value. They just might be around. Yeah. People will use them, but it's not going to become, challenge a Bitcoin or anything. So I don't know specifically. The Bitcoin Cash is the one that I'm really worried about. I think I joked about it. There's just some guy at the fucking casino who's like, Bitcoin Cash is going to overtake Bitcoin by the end of the year. It's going to be 7,000 by the end of the summer. So I immediately got a bunch of those at $1,600, and they're like $700 now. I got rid of like a lot of Ethereum, but Ethereum has gone down pretty much the same as Bitcoin Cash. So yeah. I don't know, but as long as it goes up, whatever.
I was listening to a podcast, Joe Rogan, and he had a guy on there, like an economist, and he was basically saying that it looks like the economy. He said it's overdue for a recession. He said typical recessions are every 5 to 7 years, and he said we're coming up on 9, and he's like it's time. And so that really got me thinking, like, because in the last few years, I've been buying a lot of stocks, and I've been, into the crypto world. And how valuable is cryptocurrency going to be when that recession hits? I can't imagine that it would go up.
I've heard that that's going to be the that actually recession helps crypto, but you got so many like crypto lovers out there. I don't know what to fucking think, but
yeah,
yeah, that's my, if it starts going up here, that what's my exit price at which I start taking it all out.
Yeah,
originally, like in my mind, it's like, well, I'll sell one at 30,000 and see where it goes from there.
I'll sell half of a Bitcoin here at 50K and then just go from there. It looks like we're all wrapped up with the 6-4 spades. I've got a hold of almost everybody that had money on there, and I want to thank you guys. Most of you guys just rolled the rakeback over into the scholarship. That was really cool. Anyone that had I was able to shoot the money over on PayPal, and I'm just waiting on a couple more guys to get back to me. But yeah.
What do you mean? What do you mean that they've all got their money off the site, or they've all just said they've all communicated with you via the rakeback and said, "Thanks for the info, Steve. Thanks for the heads up."
Yeah. They've communicated back saying, thanks for the heads up. I appreciate it. I'll pull my money off, and you can keep the rakeback or send the rakeback here to PayPal.
But how about, it was one player who contacted you who said they couldn't get their money off. Did that person get their money? Do you know?
He and I both got a FedEx with a tracking number, which I admit I haven't typed in to see where it's physically located, but he sent me a picture of it, so I'm pretty sure it's on the way. And Jason should be getting his check right around the same time that I'm getting mine. And then I contacted another guy that had a fair amount on there, and he's going to start withdrawing it too. So,
okay. Well, let us know when those guys get their money, because that's the key thing here.
Yeah.
Well, for all we know, it'll be a great site, and poker will be legalized, and this will be but for the time being.
Yeah.
You and I had a little bit, as usual, different emotional response to this. You were just
yes.
You were just like, oh, having problems again.
Yes, you put them on blast. It was.
Well, I mean, Steve, I think that's the way you got to go with these poker sites. I really do. As soon as from out of the starting gate, that should be goal number one. Somebody needs money. You've got enough to get it off, and you've got a way to get it off.
Yeah. I've been looking at other poker sites that we could go to. Do you remember Steve Wan? He was at Alex's house and Mike's house over the summer for the last couple of years. Asian guy.
Yeah.
You remember him? Okay. He's got a site. He runs it off of PP Poker. And I talked to him, and he said he'll throw us a 3K credit that if we want to gamble on there, we can. Thing is, there's not too many players. He said he's got less than 100 players, but what they do is they all say, okay, we're going to play Monday night at this time, and then they go on there. I would rather get something that's a little bit of a bigger site, but what I really like is that I know the guy, and he can show me how all the metrics work and all that stuff. So there's good communication with the owner. And,
maybe this should be your next project, Steve. I was actually thinking about that the other day with the Amazon. I'm like, what's Steve's next little business venture going to be? Amazon. He didn't take long for you to turn that into something very profitable. You just kind of, you got bored with it, and it was just too much of your time.
Yeah.
Maybe this is a future Barton project.
You're like the fourth person to mention that in the last 5 days. I don't know that it. I don't know. I'm not against it. I don't know. It's possible.
Right. Well, that'll be something you need. I'm guessing you need a lot of money. You can reach out to the big dog with PP Poker. I mean, so PP Poker, is that the name of his spot? His site?
Steve's is PP Poker. I think Big Dog's is PPI.
Okay, but you said it was connected to something else, so it's an affiliate. It's like an affiliate of some other site, right?
Well, what he's doing, I guess there's several different poker platforms that you can play online, and one of them is PP Poker, and his group of players. There are a bunch of the ones from guys that he plays with out in San Francisco, and then I was talking to him about bringing us on, and he said what he could do is he could set up like a tournament. Like he said, okay, if you guys want to play, a $30 tournament on Wednesday night, just let me know and we'll set it up, and then you guys can all play there. So I think that would be fun because we'd get to play with the other listeners, but I don't know that we'd have the volume of people.
Well, if you want to learn about something, if you want to get in from the beginning, Steve, you got to get a sense about how to build it. This would be a good way for you to get a glimpse of the business plan.
That's
about
true.
How they plan on. And for people who are doing this just mainly for fun.
Yeah.
Some people aren't really looking to maybe have a big field or a big guarantee. They just want to play some cards. So.
Yeah.
But
okay.
I don't know. Maybe you should stay away from online poker entirely until it's legal in the U.S.
Then I'm going to sit here and die in this room until that happens.
Well, I mean, you can play, but in terms of encouraging others to play at a site, becoming in before advertising a spot is what I mean, because of the discomfiture of your experience with 6-4 spades.
Yeah, I'm not going to let that one leave a bad taste in my mouth. I think lessons for me learned there were, know the owners and have good communication there. But I don't know. If you guys know of any other poker site that's out there that maybe you're playing on now or you've heard of, shoot me an email, headsuppoker.poker, and click on the submit a hand and shoot it over to me. And let me know what you think, and I'll contact the guys and we can go from there. But I am actively looking for another site to play on, so if you guys know of any of them, shoot me an email.
What do you got going on the women front, Steve? I think I talked to you the other day, and you're like, "Hey, I got a date." Usually, I'm the one cutting these conversations short.
Well, let's see. I haven't been dating a whole lot. I am. I'm trying to force myself back into the market, and I am going to the beach today to meet a friend. So we'll see see what goes from there. I think we'll probably have a little picnic on the beach or something, and we'll see.
Right. I gotcha.
We'll see. It seems like a nice girl. And yeah.
Where'd you meet her? Is this online?
No, I met her at a friend's house at a barbecue. And she's it just seems like a sweet girl. So we'll see. We shall see.
Sweet means you're not going to try to bang her till the second date, Steve. You're very traditional. I like that.
A gentleman never tells. Well, should we bring Clayton on?
Sure.
All righty. We're going to take a quick break and more Clayton Fletcher. Want to grow your bankroll so you can play the games you should be playing? Before your next session, enjoy 10 minutes of listening to a relaxing meditation tape of the type of game you're about to play. It will give you an edge over your opponents who have not done so, and watch your bankroll grow. Elliot Roe has all the MP3s, cash, tournaments, live, online. I have them all because I believe in them and I know they work. This is the next step in poker, the Mindset Advantage by Elliot Roe. Click on the link in the show notes. It'll take you straight there. Use the code HUPOKER and score yourself a discount. Elliot Roe, Mindset Advantage. Clayton Fletcher, thank you for coming on the show. Again.
Hey, thanks for having me back. It's good to be back. Always love talking to you guys.
It's been a whole 6 days. How have you been since then?
Just basking in the glory of my newfound fame. It's no, nothing like that. I still take out my own trash. Nothing's changed.
That hasn't changed. You still have to drive yourself places.
Yeah. Well, I live in New York. I don't even have a car.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you still have to catch your own cab.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. No special treatment.
Yes. Right on, right on. Well, I got to say, I've been excited as a little schoolgirl about just talking WSOP heads with you for an hour. So this is you've got a heart out, right, at 12:30?
Yeah, unfortunately, I can't talk all day because, my busy schedule now that I'm famous. I have
Sure.
12 other podcasts to be on today.
A
Everybody
bunch of other schoolgirls tittering about.
But you guys will always be my favorite schoolgirls, and I mean that.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
That's enough
Absolutely.
to make a girl
I
blush.
just actually googled schoolgirls Clayton Fletcher, and look, is this a mugshot I'm looking at? What is,
Fake news.
Oh, that's great.
Okay.
Right on. Well, should we get into it? What hands you got, Clayton?
Yeah, so as I mentioned on the previous episode, I took every opportunity I could to speak into my voice recorder during all my breaks when I didn't have other obligations.
Yeah.
And I basically recorded lots and lots of hands throughout all the days. I thought maybe we could go through a little bit, starting with day one. I'm going to
Sure.
make an effort to not repeat any hands that I might have mentioned on other podcasts.
Okay.
So there's somebody listening to another podcast where I was a guest and they heard me talk about a certain hand. I don't want to repeat those hands. So I found some that I haven't talked about yet that I thought might be interesting for your listeners. So,
Perfect.
yeah.
For those
So,
who didn't who didn't listen to last time, I remember you saying you weren't happy how you played on day one. So we'll I'd be curious if any of these hands are part of that. But I'll let you jump right in.
Yeah, absolutely. Day one, I didn't get enough sleep. I had changed my schedule, thinking that I was going to be asked to do commentary for the Poker Central Twitch channel, which was supposedly going to be broadcasting another final table, and they had asked me to do commentary, which is something I really, really have tremendous interest in doing. So I jumped at the opportunity to do that, and therefore changed my day one. Long story short, that meant that I ended up playing day one with less than the ideal amount of sleep, and I adjusted my strategy. Normally, I play a lot of hands. Like my average VPIP in the main event is probably something of like, I don't know, maybe like 35%.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, I find that it's usually profitable to get heavily involved in a lot of hands early in the main event because there are a lot of players that are just kind of freaked out by the whole experience, maybe playing a little too tight. And it's just good to get in against the players that are trying not to lose. But on this particular day one, I altered that normal strategy and normal playing style, even going so far as to I probably played the tightest on day one that I've ever played. And I've played the main event probably 9 or 10 times. So I was on lockdown. I was like, I didn't sleep well. I'm just going to try to, be cool and not get involved. I'm not going to try any 3-barrel bluffs, nothing crazy. So,
was there at least a couple of pros at your table that you thought were good, maybe on your left that you're like, okay, let's not be too active?
That was the hardest part. I had a good table. Like I had the kind of table I could normally run over, but I just stuck to my game plan. I said, I'm not thinking clearly enough to make really hard poker decisions today. Today, the goal is basically to survive.
Yeah.
And so even though I saw some opportunities where, normal Clayton would probably have made a few plays, Sleepy Clayton was like, I'm just going to stay out of this and try not to screw it up.
I'll take a nap here. Nudge me when it's my turn.
Yeah, nudge me when I have a good hand, and then I'll play.
The Seinfeld episode where George actually builds a little bed under his desk?
Yeah.
You ever see that one?
Yeah, I thought about doing that at the table there. They wouldn't let me. It was weird. My my
brought
bed
your
under
tent
the
and camping equipment and everything. They wouldn't even let you set it up.
Well, it was interfering with the shuffle master, so nobody wants that.
Sure.
Yeah, that's right. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, I definitely wasn't happy with my day one play. One example offhand I want to kind of just talk through quickly. I had like 68,000. You start with 50,000. So, things were going fine. The blinds were 150, 300 with 50 ante. So that's a big ante.
Yeah.
A bunch of people limped, and I raised really big. I raised to 1,800 on the button with the ace king of hearts. So I was totally fine taking it down. I think there were 4 limpers in total.
Okay.
And I would have been more than happy just to take down all those limps, the blinds and the antes, and not even ever see a flop with my ace king of hearts. And that was kind of the playing style that I was basically employing. I was trying not to have any hard decisions on a day when I know I hadn't gotten enough sleep the night before.
Yeah.
So I got 2 callers, and the flop came king 7-6. Everybody's really deep. It's day one.
Sure.
Effective stack is like 58,000, something like that. King 7-6 rainbow with 1 heart. Okay. So I have top pair, top kicker, and backdoor flush draw for what it's worth. And they all check to me.
Okay.
So
what do we got in the pot here? It's
well, 1,800 times 3 plus the blinds and antes. So
about 6K, 65.
Yeah.
We want to get through as many hands as possible. We don't have to count every chip unless it's an actual math decision whether to call or.
Yeah. So I mean, this one, I don't think it's that big an issue yet because we're so deep. So I bet 3,500 after 2 checks.
Okay.
And the first guy folded, and the second guy, who's a player on my immediate right, who I mentioned on the previous episode, the guy with the thick Bostonian accent, older guy that had been kind of mad at me,
right?
saying that I was bullying him and stuff.
You had the set of aces against him, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. I thought that was a day 2 or day 3 hand. I guess it was day 1. Okay.
Yeah, it was day 1. So he, if I'm not mistaken, this is all from day 1. So he check raised it to I think 9,000. So now the decision is really right now here on the flop. Like, is ace king ever good against a player like this? And I think the answer is sometimes ace king is good because he's decided to take his stand now against me.
Yeah. Was this after the aces hand or before? Do you remember?
Before, probably.
Yeah, I think this was before.
Okay.
I'm not in love with your bet sizing. First of all, you bet 60% pot. I don't know if that quickly. If you do get check raised, it makes it. Plus, you got him killed so often here. I mean, you're kind of hoping to get called by a worse pair, maybe. I mean, like I said, you're happy to take it down. But anyway, I'd be betting like 40% pot. I'd be betting like 2,400, 2,600 maybe.
I was thinking 3K is the highest. But yeah, I kind of like a little bit of a smaller.
But again,
bet.
this is a guy. If they've already got the dynamic too, where this guy obviously has some real resentment because he's feeling pushed around, then he's maybe bigger. But I was going to say bet smaller or sometimes check back here. I know discussing people that like they're always betting aces here because he could have a king, but because you're blocking the kings, he's weak. It's never a 3 street hand. So why not check here? Maybe, I don't know. Some people like to front load the value, but betting's fine. So he check raises.
Yeah. By the way, I disagree about value betting small. Okay. I think particularly when you're in the main event and your opponent has it in for you, I think it's wise to go ahead and bet big and get value. I think in this case, I could get value from any 7, any 6, any pocket 8s, pocket 9s. And I think that this particular player would limp in and then just call the raise with pocket 9s, maybe even pocket 10s. He would play this way.
Really?
And I think, I think that one adjustment that I generally make against weak opponents is that my value bets are much bigger than they are against more talented opponents. And my bluffs are much smaller because they're basically just going to fold if they don't have anything, no matter what I bet.
Right.
So, I'm trying to get value from my hand. Of course, I was not thrilled with getting check raised.
Right.
But yeah, I don't necessarily think there's any problem with my sizing, except now that I got check raised, now we're starting to think, well, how deep do I want to get with this hand? If I didn't have the dynamic with him, I could probably just fold it. Also, if I'm going to be perfectly honest, if I get enough sleep the night before, I could probably just, fold my hand. I'm at a good table. I don't need to like play a huge pot with one pair. I'll be folding the best hand a lot, but I think that's okay in the main event. This isn't necessarily the hand that I want to get broke with. If I didn't have the backdoor hearts, it's an easier fold. I could pick up a draw on the turn. So that's all of that kind of enters into the dynamic here. So
this just feels like every time we call this, then the turn is like a 3 and the guy just bets pot and we fold and we're like, why didn't we just fold the flop?
Does he have any bluffs here?
Yeah.
That's
is he raising so here with 8-9?
Yeah, this hand I remember now is actually after the pocket aces hand that we talked about before. So I do feel like this guy kind of wants to get back at me. Like we have that dynamic of the rivalry.
I couldn't fold it if it was after that hand then.
Yeah.
A lot of people with 6s and 7s here, they might. I'm sure this is what got into your thinking too. They're just going to flat when there's no flush draw out there.
Yeah, it's a rainbow flop.
They're not always going to be check raising. And like you said, he had it out for you.
Yeah.
I could see him check raising here with worse kings.
Yeah, I definitely think if he limped in with like King Jack, King 10, and now he's check raising to see where he's at, or just to try to take it down against.
He could be overvaluing his hands. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And he does want to get involved with me. He wants to kind of get even. So all of that.
I think with the backdoor flush, especially, his sizing is pretty small too. A lot of pros, anyways, are probably going to check raise at least 3x there.
Yeah.
3.5, 4x maybe. With their bluffs and with their value.
Absolutely.
Although he doesn't have to make it real big to set it up for the river shove. I'm pretty sticky in these spots. Maybe folding's the best option, but I'm probably going to call at least once and see what happens on the turn.
Yeah, and that's what I decided to do, which I don't know if it's the best play or not. I think folding the best hand here is okay, just because of my situation I'm in. There's only one really good player at my table, and he's also on my right. To the right of this guy, whose name is Bobby, by the way, is Adam Levy, Ruthless, who I ended up playing with at 3 different tables in this tournament. And he's an excellent player, but he doesn't really go too crazy on day one. He kind of has the typical professional mentality of let's just survive and try to build our stack with low risk. So that seems to be his
the villain in this hand. Have you seen him had a nutty hand and how he played it? As he check raised, I mean, we know we have the psychological profile, but in terms of hand scene, was there anything that led you to believe that he's going to be bluffing here?
No, the only things that really made me think he could be bluffing was that he's just sick of me,
right?
And he decided to go for it here. Yeah, there hasn't been another like check raise bluff or whatever that I've seen. Yeah, I called in position, heads up. We'll see a turn, and it's the Jack of Hearts giving me a flush draw to go with my top pair, top kicker. Okay. So now the board is King 7 6 Jack with 2 hearts, and now he bets 15,000 into the
should be 24K.
4,000-ish pot. And, do we want to continue or what's going on?
His stack size, you said, was what to start the hand?
58 effective.
Yeah.
58.
Yeah, he's got 58, yeah.
That's quite pricey.
Yeah. It's a lot. I mean, one consideration is if I make the nut flush on the river, I could almost definitely get the rest of his stack when he does have 7-6 or 6-6 or 7-7.
Which and he's not going to ever put you on a flush probably because it'd be run or
no.
So.
Yeah, so that's why
if he's got a set, he's got to pay you off.
Yeah. Yeah. So if I call, I have the full stack of implied odds, and the reason why it's a tough one is because we didn't fold on the flop. So if I really had the game plan to try to make my decisions easy, I should have just given into the resistance. But the dynamics between this player and me, and the fact that I had some backdoor flush cards and other things that could go my way, I was unable to make the fold, even though I had a certain game plan heading into the deck. This was
one of those you're
spot.
crossing your fingers, hoping you didn't pick up a flush draw, so you could fold it.
Yeah, I almost didn't want to see a heart on a turn. Exactly. Yeah. So here we are. What do we do?
I'm adding it up here. We got 39K in the pot now after his 15K bet, and he has 32 behind. So he's, man.
Yeah. With the implied odds, I think it's a call, but it's just more a question of when you're playing the main event, do you need to take spots like this? At this point, I'm pretty sure I'm beat. I think he might check raise the flop with something, but when I call, he's not going to fire again, especially a healthy bet like this one. It's just it's not in his player profile to just keep bluffing.
Yeah, to just fire again with pocket fives here or something.
Yeah, even King Jack, King Jack, of course, now has two pair. He would bet that one again. But if he had some other king, and he never has top and middle like King 7 or something that's not really. He never has that. He doesn't limp and then call the big raise with those hands, even against me. No.
He's probably knows what you have at this point. He's got you on aces or ace king.
Yeah, I mean, I think my hand's pretty easy to read, even for.
So it just looks like a one pair hand to me. Yeah, I think
it's very hard for him to put me on hearts, though. That's the deceptive part of my hand. If I can get there on the river.
Well, if you want to say. I'm sorry. After, let's see, he would still have. How much more does he have in his stack? After he bets 15, does he still? He still has 30 in his stack, or a little
32.
less.
32. Yeah.
32. So if you want to look at this way, that basically it's costing you 15 to win the 24 plus the 32. I'm sorry.
The 39 plus.
So 24, 39 plus 32 to win 71.
Yeah.
So it'd be 15 divided by 86 would be the numbers you need.
Yeah.
Does that sound about? It's actually a break-even call almost, because if you have 8 outs, let's just assume he has a set. So there's one of the hearts that does not help you, because that would boat him up. Am I doing the math right? I think I am here.
Yeah, 17% is.
So if you're assuming you're stacking him every time that you hit a heart, if you saw his hand face up and there was a set and you were going to stack him every single time, it might be just barely plus chip EV. But then there's the whole, it's a lot of chips in the tournament, which he has a big edge in. So.
Right. So therefore, with all those things considered, I think I should fold here. But I called, and the river bricked, and he bet again, and Tired Clayton called, which is terrible, and he showed a set of sixes. So that was a hand that hurt a lot. I ended up having about 26,000 after that hand was over.
Okay.
So, yeah, I'm just trying to rush through a little bit because I have some other better hands I want to talk to you guys about.
Let's go to the next hand.
But but I think that hand demonstrates how we can get too optimistic. Well, if I get the flush, I'm going to be able to stack this guy. How we can overvalue the importance of dynamics between ourselves and other players. When a player like this, no matter what the dynamic is, he's waiting for the nuts so that he can play a big pot with me. He's not bluffing me. Like my ace king is probably close to never good on the flop check raise. So when you're tired and you make bad decisions, it can really cost you a lot of chips, even when you have a game plan to try to stay out of trouble. Yeah. So I feel like there's a lot of lessons in that hand that I learned, and hopefully maybe some other people can learn from my mistakes, because that was a bad hand that I was kicking myself over for quite a while. The only other hand I want to discuss from day one, my stack was all the way down to 23,000, and I was in the big blind with the 8 of hearts and the 7 of spades. It folded all the way around to Ruthless, who raised it to 1,200. The blinds were 250 and 500 with the 75 ante. So he made it 1,200, which had been the standard raise at our table. He's got like 100,000 chips. He's just doing
what position is he in?
He's on the button.
Button, okay.
Yeah. So it folds all the way to him. He opens his button to 1,200. The small blind, the player from the previous hand, folded. And now it's up to me. Do I want to play a pot? I have to call 700 more to see a flop. I have 8-7, which is a playable hand. I have a really good opponent. I can't fold. Like even on like Clayton on lockdown, I can't resist the pot odds, and I can't resist making a big hand with 8-7. So
right,
maybe with my game plan, I'm supposed to fold, but I put in the 700 more.
Almost 4-1. Yeah, I'd probably flick a call here. 8-6 offsuit. I think I'm folding, but the connected, I don't know. I don't think I can fold.
Yeah, I have to fold. I mean, I had a game plan, but these are the kind of hands where I felt like I couldn't necessarily just wait for the nuts. Like I couldn't resist the pot odds, and I have a playable hand. So the flop comes 10 of clubs, 6 of diamonds, 4 of clubs. So I have 2 gut shots.
Double gutted, a 5 or 9.
And I'm first.
These ones I like to donk lead.
Okay.
This board hits your range more than it does his button raising range. I like to bet my little straight draws and my little flush draws. I like to just lead out. And so if I did my math right, it should be 3,300 in the pot. In spots like this, I would bet like 22. And then if you get a favorable turn, then fire like pot or overbet is my standard. So here I'd be betting pretty big, and I'd bet like 2K to 2,500, something like that.
Mike, you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's okay. I mean, I think you can do any. I think it'd be if it was a 10-8-6 board and you had like 7-4, if you had a double gutter in a different way, maybe I like donking a little more because you got more 2-pair combinations in there, basically. Yeah. I might just, like I said, just because if your plan is just to get through the next day, you can check call. But if you got a donk lead, you got to definitely pretty much bet every turn, right?
Yeah.
That's the thing with it. If I'm a donk lead, I'm always, I don't know what Steve's theory is this. I'm always ready. I'm always at least firing a second bullet, often a third, if it makes sense, depending on the run out.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of the play. I want to tell you guys why.
Okay.
Because with 23,000 chips and at these blind levels, my M is 15, or you could say I have 46 big blinds. And I just feel like when you bet, especially if you bet in the sizing in the range that Steve suggested, I lead out for 22, and then Adam makes it like 65. With 2 gut shots, I hate to have to fold, but I also hate to have to put in so much of my stack and just hope that a 5 or 9 peels off. So I think for my stack size, it gets really awkward when you lead and get raised. And also I think that Adam's perfectly capable of raising me with like something like the ace king with the ace of clubs, because there's 2 clubs on the flop. Like he could easily raise a lot of leads.
Yeah, the
not that he
quality
necessarily would, but I
of
think
the
that he's going to have a.
or we could just call with nothing here and then just to click back the turn. It just the quality of the competition. This is like one of the best online players ever. Really, he's
an outstanding player. I played with him in a number of other tournaments over the years, and like I've always been really kind of impressed with his skills. Like I think against a more predictable opponent, I think leading is better. I think with a bigger stack, leading is totally fine, even against Adam. But I think in this particular spot with this stack, I think leading's kind of a mistake because you're going to have to fold a lot when he raises or commit to this pot with 8 high, which really sucks.
And yeah,
but you also take it down.
I like check call.
Quite a bit. A lot of times he just folds. That's where this kind of gets valuable. Is a lot of times they'll fold the turn when you pot it. But,
yeah, so you're saying like lead pretty big on the flop and then double barrel the turn. And now, like, we're really going off of our game plan. We're bluffing everybody out with 8 high.
True.
When he has 100,000 and I only have 23,000. And I feel like at the end of the day, I think that's pretty bad. I think at the end of the day, it's much harder to bluff people, especially people that have already accumulated a nice stack. I don't think Adam Levy is afraid of my 23K when he's got 100K in front of him.
That's probably true.
And I think he might just see what I have as a draw. I think a lot of times players lead with their draws too much. Donk lead with their draws too much, and I think that he'll be able to correctly put me on the type of hand that I have. He might mistake it for like something like the ace-5 of clubs or something like that, but he's going to have a correct read that I have a draw, and he could put maximum pressure on me where I can't really put that much pressure on him. I don't even have a quarter of his stack to apply pressure with. So for all those reasons, I think checking and calling is the play.
And he's going to be checking back a lot of turns too, so you get 2 shots to hit your hand.
Absolutely.
So yeah. Okay, so you check.
Yeah, so I check, and he kind of tilted his head, like acting surprised that I had checked. And he and I have a fun dynamic. Like he likes to joke around a lot at the table. He and I have been sort of having respectful fun with each other all day. But when he did that, even with the jokey joke dynamic, I felt like he was really strong. I put him on like pocket kings when he did that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, just the way he acted, something about it. And I might have been wrong. It might just been a false tell. But in the moment, when he kind of like, oh, you check, kind of, he didn't say that was his body language. Did he
kind of like wrinkle his forehead and eyebrows a little bit, like kind of inquisitively?
Yeah, he kind of raised his eye. He raised his eyebrows, like like surprised.
I know exactly the look you're talking about. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then he bet 1,500. So I think that's small enough to call.
I think so.
I think that given the read, anything else is bad. Yeah. Raising when I think he has a really strong hand is stupid.
Yes.
And folding this draw when I think he has a really strong hand is also bad. So I just call and hope to hit my hand. The turn is the tray of hearts. I don't see any reason to lead here. I checked again. And this time he put in 4,000. So I know Steve's doing the math on this pot.
Yeah, we got 6,300 in the pot on the turn. We have about we'll call it 20K behind.
Yeah.
I agree. I don't see any reason to lead here.
Yeah, but the question is, can we afford to call? I mean, like you say, it's a fairly healthy bet here. He's putting in 4,000.
Yeah, the problem is he could have shit here. Yeah. Which means even if you hit your hand, you don't get paid anything.
Right, but I do have the read, and I tend to really put a lot of value on my reads. I feel like that's the strength of my game. So I don't think he has nothing, although, of course, it's possible, especially a really good player like him could definitely fool me into thinking he has something when he doesn't. He's that good. Like, I don't think a read against him is that reliable, but I do kind of just feel what I feel in the moment and go with it for better or worse.
I mean, even if we hit a 5 or a 9 here, are we really going to get paid? I mean, that board would...
Well, do we have any other outs here where we could theoretically, like if the board pairs, the 10 or the 6, do we donk 70% pot? Do we have any other plan to win the pot on the river, or are we just hoping to hit?
Yeah,
If we're just hoping to hit, probably just fold here.
Yeah,
I think folding is fine. The reason I called was because my plan was to shove on a 5 or a 9 or any club, because I think that Adam has put me on a draw. And even if he has like pocket kings and I stick my whole stack in on a river club, he can't really determine whether I have the club draw or the double gutter that I have. And there aren't that many open enders that can afford to call the turn. It's hard to put me on the 8-7 double gutted. So if I called pre-flop with the 5-7 or the 5 tray, I'm open ended. Otherwise, I'm not. So actually, if I think about it, the 5-7 actually got there.
Yeah, 5-7 is 10-6-4-3.
Yeah. So, if he's more than likely putting me on any 2 clubs, maybe like 9-8 of clubs, ace-5 of clubs, like any club hand. So I feel like I have bluff outs, as I like to call them.
Okay, well, that was my question, yeah. If the 5 hits, there's 4 to a straight on the table, so it's hard to get paid for that. But at that point, if he's got kings, he's got kings, and there's a lot of chips in the pot, too. And you're a guy, apparently, who he's played with, who he probably thinks of as a pro or as a tough winning tournament player.
Yeah.
So he's going to...
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I don't know if he thinks I'm the best, but I think he definitely has more respect for me than he does for most of our opponents at this table. So put it that way.
Okay.
Yeah. As for betting if the board pairs, I think that's a mistake because I don't think that I've represented a set or 2 pair at all the way I've played this hand. So I think
check call. No, I don't think so.
Yeah, all of a sudden betting really big just because the board pairs. I think he'll see right through that and call with kings or whatever he's got.
Okay.
I've mentioned that because the river is a 4 and not a club.
Okay.
So final board 10, 6, 4, 3, 4 with just 2 clubs. And I don't think that's one of my outs or my bluff outs. So I just checked. He bet big. And I folded my 8 high, obviously.
You didn't call with that?
No. And I love this hand because he said, you know what, Clayton, it's the end of the day. We're almost done. And he turned over pocket 10. So he had flopped a set and rivered a full house. So I'm glad that I didn't change my plan and bet the paired board on the end because I would have gotten action from the full house.
Right.
Yeah, I doubt he's folding that.
Well, I said, just to be I said if a 10 or a 6 were to hit.
Right. Not a 4.
A 4 would not make any sense at all unless you.
Yeah, a 10 would have been a lot.
Unless you actually had quads.
Yeah, because I might actually play a 10 this way. If I had like ace 10 or king 10,
right.
I might just check and call. That is a hand. I could have a 10 if the 10 had paired. But yeah, it was nice to know that my read on the flop was actually confirmed because he was very strong on the flop. He flopped to nuts. So all of that was good because it showed that even tired Clayton can do something right occasionally. But the
Sleepy Clayton pulled one out.
Yeah, but because of that hand, I ended the day with 16K, and needless to say, that stack was well below average heading into day 2.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Then tired Clayton went and did some coke and stayed up all night again. Tired Clayton learned from his mistakes.
Well, the next day was 4th of July, and I slept in so hard. It's like by the time I woke up, they were getting the fireworks ready.
Oh, wow.
So I definitely needed some sleep, and I'm glad I got it then. And then, as I mentioned, day 2 was one of the best days of my whole poker career. I started with 16,000 and ran it up. At one point, it was over 300,000. So that was a really fun day. I don't really have any major hands I want to talk about from day 2 because it was just pretty much I bet, they call when I have it, they fold when I don't, and life is good. It was in a way, it's kind of boring to talk about. It's like, guess what, guys? I made another set,
Yeah.
Guess what? I bet 3 streets, and they kept
I
calling.
got aces again. I got paid
Yeah.
off by queens.
Yeah. I mean, there was one interesting hand from day 2 that I discussed on another podcast, but the real message of that hand was I got bluffed on I had an overpair, and I bet it and got raised, and my opponent was Norwegian. So I called because we don't fold overpairs to Norwegians.
Yeah.
I think that is something you should all write down in all of your poker notebooks. And if you play online, put it on a sticky note on your computer. Never fold an overpair to a Norwegian opponent. It's just a bad play. So
you can throw Brazilians in that category too.
Yeah, I guess you could. Yeah, we don't fold overpairs to Norwegians.
Yes.
Towards the end of day 2, one other interesting thing is I have a guy that I've played against a bunch at Borgata. His name is Russ. I know he's a pro. He's a really good player. He's normally really aggressive, and he's just talented hand reader and just like someone you don't want to see at your table. I don't know Russ's last name, unfortunately, because I'd love for him to hear me saying nice things about him on the podcast if he's listening. But one adjustment that I noticed Russ made was he hardly ever 3-bet. And 3-betting pre-flop is a big part of his strategy from other tournaments I've played with him. But in this tournament, I felt like he wanted to a few times, especially when I was the one doing the raising and he's on my immediate left. Like if I raised my cutoff, he flatted me a lot on the button instead of 3-betting. And, honestly, I think that sometimes people, they play so differently in the main event. And sometimes I think people take those adjustments too far. The main event is a different animal, but at the end of the day, it's still a no limit hold'em tournament.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of a point I wanted to make, that I've noticed Russ and a few other pros that I played against that I'd recognized changing their style pretty drastically because it's the main event.
Okay.
Yeah. So I would caution that we should all try to remember, like, yeah, you should make your adjustments that you think are correct, but like, let's still play poker. It's still a poker.
Don't sacrifice your edge in your game because of this tournament. Yeah. Yeah,
because I had a much easier time with Russ on my left than I would have in any other tournament, in any other casino, at any other year. So, if you never 3-bet me, then I feel like I can sort of take liberties, and I did.
Yeah.
I did.
Okay.
Yeah. So I finished day 2 with like almost 300K, which was awesome. Day 3 is, to me, the most interesting day of the main event because that's the day we reach the money and you start to get like bubble dynamics, and those are really fun. I realize now that my pocket aces hand that I mentioned on a previous podcast was a different opponent than the one I was just talking about at the other table. You guys have to forgive me a little bit because I played like 7 days straight and it was long days. There were 2 big hands I played in this tournament with pocket aces. They were not both against the player Bobby that check raised me with pocket 6s in the other hand.
Basically, there's so many dumb Bostonians running around the place you can't even really keep straight.
They just all blend together, and all these white guys look the same. How do you tell them apart?
Look at this arrogant Manhattanite here. Thinks all people from New England are stupid. But anyways,
yeah, I definitely don't mean it that way, but I just want to see. How well everybody out there can remember all their hands if they play 7 days straight, 12-hour days. Wait, I lied. I did have 1 day off after day 1 because I didn't end up doing commentary. So I changed my whole schedule, and then they ended up changing their schedule, so they didn't need me for the 4th of July at all. So I could have played 1C, but that's water under the bridge. And I got 28th place, so we're not crying. All right, so towards the end of day 3 is when you start to reach the bubble. And a lot of the players at my table, which was probably the 3rd table I was at that day, were very, very concerned about reaching the money. How many more players left? How many more tables left? When do we reach the money? Do you guys know if we reach the money before dinner? Do we reach it after dinner? They're all talking about the money.
Yeah.
And it's really important to them. So it's a huge dynamic that you don't usually find in tournaments, that not only are players like really sweating the bubble, but they're also openly talking about sweating the bubble. So,
yeah, and you're like, these guys may just fold like queens. just because they want to cash.
A few years ago when I had my deep run, I bluffed a guy off of a set on the bubble, and he turned it face up and showed me that he folded a set. He's like, I just don't want to go out like this.
Yeah.
With like 5 players before the money, he folded a set to me when I had, very little.
Yeah.
So I tend to go pretty crazy on the bubble. The reason on this bubble I didn't go as crazy as usual was because my stack had peaked at this table like almost 600,000, and a few things haven't gone my way lately, and my stack is all the way down to like 350,000. And I think when you have that kind of image, like you're losing and maybe you're on tilt, it's a big mistake to try to pull off a whole bunch of bluffs.
Yeah.
So there was a really good player from Canada at my table. His name is Shanrasi Kuhn. I believe he also finished in the top 100 actually. And he was talking to the players who seemed to be concerned about the bubble, saying things like, even with a hand like pocket aces, you could still go broke and then not make any money. And like he was like openly campaigning for them to continue playing scared.
Yes. Yeah. I do the same thing.
Yeah. So, I mean, you have to know when you do that same thing that the other professional players at the table are like fully aware of what you're up to. They're not
of course
fall for it. But, if it works against the less experienced players, maybe the ones who free rolled or satellited in or won their little home game to get a chance to play in the main, whatever the case may be, those players are definitely susceptible to those kind of speech tactics or whatever. So I noticed that Shanrasi was abusing the bubble, for lack of a better word. And so in this hand, the blinds are 2,500 and 5,000 with a 500 ante, and we're about 20 or 25 spaces away from the bubble, which with this many tables, that could happen pretty fast. Like we might hit the bubble in the next half hour easily. Okay. So as I said, the big blind is 5,000. He's got like 300,000 behind. I have him barely covered. He opens to 13,000 from middle position. A really bad player on the button calls with 140,000. Now this guy has been really loose passive pre-flop and then very tight post-flop. So he's been like, I call before the flop and then I fold on the flop, that kind of guy. Okay. So obviously that is not a winning strategy. Yeah.
Yes.
That's
amazing.
A terrible.
He's made it to day 3.
Yeah, but he's his stack is certainly below average. It's 140. So he calls the 13,000. I'm in the small blind next to act with pocket jacks.
Ooh.
Yeah. So how do we want to play our jacks?
Interesting spot.
This is an interesting spot. I like this. Okay, and we have 350, you said, right?
Correct.
And do you remember what the big blind had?
The big blind had 200.
200, okay. Well, we have 70 big blinds, but the biggest stack has...
a little less.
60.
60.
Yeah, he's got 60 bigs. So this is too much to... man, it would be ideal to get... man. Actually, just put the pen down. A really bad player didn't open it.
So a really, really good player opened.
Yeah.
And then a really bad player
called on the button, and we're in the small blind with jacks. 60 bigs effective.
I love to hear. You can actually hear Steve's mind just grinding to a halt.
I know.
The two hamsters are running in opposite directions right now.
Yeah, this is not good, Steve.
This is a slack-jawed fireman. Got a drooling fire, like
drooling all over his notepad.
This thing's going to go crisp, anyways.
Well, here's my thought. Okay, folding's out of the question, obviously. Calling, I think, would be a mistake to probably end up going 4 ways here because the big blind will probably come along as well. I don't know, more than half the time. And yeah, four-way in the worst position with jacks, I think is bad. So I think we need to raise. The thing is, what the hell do we do if MP Four bet. I guess we just fold, but are we really folding the fourth best hand in poker because of that? God, I'd make it 44. 44K.
Okay, Mike.
I think there's an argument for flatting too here.
Think so?
Not pump. It depends if you think he's capable of four bet bluffing here or not.
Yeah.
Because if he is, I do think you have to fold to a four bet out of position.
Yeah.
Like I said, that would be the argument. But also, I don't think. Yeah, four ways. Jacks, I guess, doesn't play great. But I don't think you have to worry about getting bluffed off the best hand or anything that often.
Yeah.
I don't think the main villain here is necessarily going to be triple barreling off. I mean, you have him covered. That's pretty.
Right.
That's pretty relevant here.
Yeah, I do, and you know, he's the one that's been making everybody else aware of the bubble. So he's obviously aware of the bubble himself. Now, he might not care as much about the $15,000 you get for the min cash as some of the other players at the table who are clearly, you know, praying for it.
Yeah.
But I don't think he would necessarily want to play a huge pot on the bubble. That said, he has been abusing this bubble, and he's an excellent player. He's been very aggressive, and I do think that he's capable of four bet bluffing.
Right.
Yeah.
But a lot of the times,
And
if you see these guys who are like, you know, sort of the end of day one of tournament or bubble or whatever, who are just opening every hand and abusing the bubble and just stealing so many pots, or you got passive people who are just calling two bets and full of the flop. They're smart enough where if he's got a crappy hand, he should be folding here, right? There's no reason to get sticky here because you haven't been out of hand yet.
Right, and I've been losing. I showed up at this table with like 600,000. I've gone all the way down to 350. Right. So he might feel like I'm not a good player, but I think really good players can tell that just because you're losing doesn't mean you're bad at poker.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, there's a little bit of a dynamic though. It's very hard to get respect when all you've done for the last hour since you sat here is like show up with a big stack and lose every pot.
Look at me, bitches.
Yeah, it's hard to get respect in that scenario.
Really, I'm having a hand that flashed in my mind, Steve. I don't know if I talked about Scott Stewart with this personally, or if we talked in the podcast. I don't know if Clayton, you listened to Scott Stewart came in 14th in the main event last year or something. And he's an LA pro, he's an absolute stud, a bunch of rings and everything like that. And I think this might have been against Chris Moorman, but Moorman or somebody opened like early position. He had queens in the small blind. He just called and then folded on a king high flop.
Right.
Just trying. Yeah. You're just staying away from playing the best players out of position.
Right.
Yeah.
At all. You know what I mean? So this would be a pretty good example where you could flat. It's a small investment and see what happens on the flop. So that's kind of what I'm leaning towards here.
All right, and I really see I see the merit in that. I see the merit in flatting. You probably end up checking and folding a lot, maybe sometimes with the best hand, but you know, at least you don't have to play a big pot like right on the bubble of the main event, yada yada. However, well-rested Clayton does not like to play passively with the fourth best hand against an opponent who he thinks has been overly aggressive. So well-rested Clayton 3-bet it to 40,000, planning to shove to any 4-bet.
Okay.
So I think that Shanrazi is aggressive enough and was, making such a point of abusing the bubble enough that I think losing 60 of my 70 whatever big blinds to a player that happens to pick up a huge hand right when he needs one, right when his image is perfect. I mean, I don't have a problem with getting it in with him.
Okay.
So,
well, you said don't fold the Swedes. I'm kind of feeling like anyone whose name's Shanrazi. I don't know. I don't know his ethnicity. but
maybe
it
Indian
feels
or Pakistani, something like that.
okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But he's Canadian. But the name is definitely like maybe Middle Eastern or South Asian, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
but more
three betting here. You're obviously so far ahead of his opening range. If he's just range versus range.
Him making it like 110 here and then folding to your shove. You think? He could do this with like ace five of clubs or something, or 8-9 of diamonds.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Actually,
I like it.
Ace five of clubs is the popular hand to do it with now because somebody wrote somewhere that you're never more than 30%. You're never worse than 30% except against aces when you have the ace five suited.
Oh, okay.
So a lot of
he probably would be an interesting spot. Technically, he's probably supposed to fold, regardless if he's a pro or not. For ICM. Well, I don't know if he'd 5-bet fold to queens, but if he would 5-bet fold if he would 4-bet fold queens, you're probably supposed to though. If you 5-bet shove here, it certainly looks like kings, aces, or ace king suited. But
queens is not beating anything. I'm probably in his mind. I'm not playing jacks this way,
right?
So if he raises and I re-raise, and maybe ICM would tell him to flat his queens. To my 3-bet. So I don't know, but there's definitely some interesting dynamics between him and me. In this pot. So he thinks about it. He stares at me. He looks angry that someone took away his mojo, and he really wanted to play a pot with that fish who called the pot.
Sure.
But he ends up folding his hand, and only the inexperienced player with the shorter stack called me. So I think this is a great result.
This is about the best thing that could have happened.
Yeah.
Aside from everyone folding, I guess. But
yeah. I'm going to play an inflated pot against a player who doesn't know what he's doing. And I almost definitely have the best hand.
Yeah.
All he's done is call twice. So, right. He called. The one guy's raised and I re-raised and he called again. So I think in that scenario, jacks are probably the nuts. Right?
I think that's an accurate assessment. Yes.
Yeah, and then on top of everything else, the flop is 7-4 deuce rainbow. So what else do I want?
Yeah.
This guy's only got like 95,000 left in his stack. Whatever.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's only got 100K behind or something. So
yeah, and that's like how much is in the pot. But I got cute. I bet 40,000. I think checking is fine. I think betting all of it is fine. I just got cute and bet small. I bet the same amount I had raised it to. I love my hand. I want action, whatever. He goes all in for 95,000 total. Perfect. So I think it's a trivial, easy call. I like snap call. And he says, do you have aces?
Oh, no.
And at that point, I knew my hand was no good. So he turns over kings.
Wow.
Yeah, and he played his kings that way. Just call and then call.
Wow.
And then finally show some aggression on the 7-high flop. But this is how some inexperienced players play the bubble of the main event. He's worried that one of us had aces. And even when he gets it in on a 7-high flop, he's like nit rolling me, like worried about his kings not being any good.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was a kind of a frustrating hand because I didn't lose that many chips on it. I guess I lost 130.
But if he played his hand properly, if he 3-bet it, you probably don't 4-bet or flat against this particular guy because the way he's been, he's so flat. Yeah. He's got queens plus in that spot.
Yeah, so he just has to have.
You know what? Actually, jacks is a really easy fold if this guy is aggressive at all before the flop.
Yeah.
So that was just kind of an unfortunate hand or whatever. However, a few things went my way right after that, and I got my stack all the way back up to 340. And then I played a couple of really interesting pots that I just want to talk through because we're kind of getting short on time.
Sure.
But I just want to talk a little bit about the bubble dynamics. Basically, there were 7 players at my table folding everything, and 2 players at my table that were actually trying to make some money on the bubble. Me and Shenrasi Kun. In middle position, I opened pocket sixes, and this is like maybe like 8 players to the bubble. And now he's down to like 260, and I have about 340. And he raised it to 40K from the small blind. And it folded back to me. And in almost any other tournament situation on earth, I'm either calling or folding my sixes. But because we're on the bubble of the main event, and because I still feel like he's trying to establish a foothold, I decide to 4-bet it, and I made it 90,000, planning to fold if he shoved, which is something I would never do, except that it's the bubble, and because I've already built up all of this, like, character equity against this guy. So he folds his hand, and I'm like,
Nice.
Finally, I get a leg up on him. Later, the same guy, a few hands later, he raised in late position, and I picked up ace-4 off in the small blind and 3-bet it, and he folded. And when he folded, he said, "Aren't you scared?" He's like, we're almost at the bubble. Aren't you scared? And I said, "I don't care about $15,000. Do you?" Which, by the way, is not true at all. If anyone knows how much money comedians make, there's no truth to that. But I wanted him to know that I'm not scared. And my play reflected it, and my table talk reflected it. So
send his deadbeat ass back to Canada.
Yeah. Exactly.
Go fucking drink a Lowenbrow and bang an Eskimo, you punk.
Yeah, get out of here.
I don't know if they have either of those things in Canada, but it's just
Molsons. They got a lot of Molsons.
Oh yeah, Molson or Labatt's. Yeah. So he was getting frustrated, and he was trying to talk to me about, aren't you worried about the bubble? Look, first of all, it's not my first main event. Second of all, it's not my first cash. And third of all, I'm not going to change the way I play bubbles. Look, guys, I bubble more than anybody you ever have on your podcast. I tend to go crazy and spaz with like pocket sixes or try to get people to fold sets. I do shit on the main event on the main event bubble, especially, that you would never do. But I'll do these kind of things in other tournament bubbles because I just find that most players, they read so many articles and watched so many videos about ICM that they're folding way too much. And this is like the number one opportunity to make money in the main event is on the bubble. So I wasn't going to let the fact that one player at my table seemed to know what he was doing stop me. He did win one hand against me right before the bubble where I had flatted his open. I was on the button with a 9-8 suited, and I flopped middle pair, and he bet big, and I just folded it, which I thought was interesting. It came like queen. It was king 9 deuce, and I had the 9-8 suited, and he bet big, and he kind of looked like he wanted me to play with him, like he'd finally gotten in a spot against me. Yeah. And I don't normally fold middle pair when, if you call with 9-8 and you get a little something on the flop, you're usually supposed to at least peel one.
Yeah.
But in this particular situation, I opted to just throw it away. We were almost on the bubble, and it just seemed like my spidey sense or whatever was telling me, like, no, he's got you this time, Clayton. Get out of there.
Yeah. He has a king. Just let it go.
Yeah. I just felt like he had it there, so I just decided to let it go. Now, before we go, I have one more hand that I actually want to talk through with you guys rather than just narrate.
Okay.
My other thing can wait a few minutes because this one is just so worth it. There's that big hand that everybody's
up here, Clayton. Okay.
No, this is a good hand. I wouldn't tell you guys. You guys are going to like this hand a lot.
Okay. Now, results. Don't give us any clues as to what who's folding or any of that.
No, nothing like that.
Okay.
It's just a really interesting poker hand. Now we're well deep into the bubble on day 6. Into the money on day 6. We have just recently won a really large pot that's shown on television with the ace king against pocket tens where I talk him into it. That's I think that's going to be a pretty famous hand from this year's main event. I think we may have discussed it briefly last time, but anyway, there was a guy that was kind of like talking to me a lot and trying to figure out if his tens were any good on ace 4, and I had ace king.
Okay.
He basically doubled up. So that happened recently. And now we have the ace of diamonds, queen of spades in the hijack. The blinds are 40K, 80K with 10,000 ante.
Oh, that's a big ante.
And we have like 12 million.
Okay.
40K,
so it
80K.
folds to us in the hijack.
Okay.
Yeah.
You've got 150 bigs here. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, we have a stack.
Okay.
So folds to me in the hijack with the ace of diamonds, queen of spades.
Okay.
And I opened to 200.
Okay.
Which was kind of the standard bet at my table. Some guys were doing 190, 200 seemed right. The button, Bas de Lot, who is a professional player from Holland, who has mostly been uninvolved at this table, as the chips have been flying at this table, and he seems like he's been waiting for a spot. But I know Bas. I know he's an excellent tournament player, and I'm not happy that he's the one who called me. I also got action from Bart Liebert, who's from, I want to say, Belgium. I could be wrong, but they're both European pros. So the only good news so far is that I have ace queen, which is a good hand.
Okay.
Everything else about this sucks.
Okay. Now, where was the other player they called? Small blind or big blind?
The big blind.
Okay. So he called the 200 small blind folded.
Yeah. So it's me, Bass, and Bart to the flop.
Okay. Looks like we got 600 and
probably 700. Yeah.
700 maybe with the antes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's about 7 in there. Flop comes jack of diamonds, 9 of spades, 8 of diamonds, and Bart checks to me.
Ace of diamonds, queen of spades, on a jack of diamonds, 9 of spades, 8 of diamonds. Okay, we got a backdoor flush draw. We got a gut shot.
We have 2 over cards for what it's worth.
Yeah. I'm probably checking here. What are you doing, Mikey?
I don't know. The funny thing is, I was just thinking this is a spot where lately in like cash games, I'm either giving up or check raising, actually.
Oh.
Just because if I bet and they call like double barrel, if it's decent against a lot of opponents, it's just not going to make a lot of sense. They're not folding a pair. Basically, they'll fold Jack X to a check raise here and put you on it. But this is me talking about mediocre players on 2-5, not 2 top European pros.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Do you have a backdoor flush?
I do.
He's got the ace of diamonds, so he's got the backdoor nut flush. I don't know. I just looking at this in a vacuum, I feel like this flop just hits their range a lot better than it does ours because they just flatted. I don't know. I think I'm just checking here, and if
this is like the wettest. This is the wettest board like ever.
Yeah.
It hits everybody's range ever. Like it always hits all the ranges in the world. So I feel like there's no reason to bet. Although I love the check raise idea because what do you do with Queen Jack if I check and you bet and then I raise real big?
Yeah.
Now, but I should mention my opponents don't have anywhere near the stack I do. They're both around 6 million.
Oh yeah, I forgot to ask effective stacks. Okay.
Yeah, and I forgot to mention it as well. So yeah, I mean at this point I'm like second in chips in the whole tournament.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure if the check raise is, but just quickly with cash, I've been thinking, Steve, usually cash, you're check raising your sets and then your big draws just to balance. Where I've been looking for some other spots for that. Like this would be an example, but
yeah, I was just going to add
Steve,
to that.
Steve, you like to check, Steve, but would you check call here?
Depending on sizing. I mean, there's 700 in the pot. If they bet like 150 or something, then I'm not folding. I'd probably cut it off at like if they went any more than 2.5. If they went more than 250, I'm probably folding.
Yeah, and I think that's fine. I think that check raising is fine too because you could pick up I mean, you could make a straight on the turn. You could also make a pair of aces, which might be good on the turn. You could also pick up the nut flush draw on the turn. So if you do check raise, you have a lot of cards you can continue on. And you don't, just because you check raise doesn't mean you have to bet again on the turn. I really like that play. And I think that, Boss on the button is more than capable of betting just because we both check to him. Even if he just has a small piece, something like 8-7 suited or something, he will probably bet because we check.
You can say it smashes all everyone's range, but you're much more likely to have a set than the other players here, I think, because they are going to squeeze sometimes with 8s and 9s and raise with jacks a lot. So
I agree with that.
So Steve, Steve would check, probably give up, and Clayton, what did you decide to do here?
Yeah, so I bet 290 for the same reasons I like the check raise. I like just continuing to be the aggressor in this pot because if I don't get raised, there are so many cards on the turn that I can continue betting and put a lot of pressure on one pair of hands like ace-9 or 10-9. That if I want to just keep firing, I could probably get some of those hands out.
Right.
I don't really like my play that much now. I think check raising is better. But that's what I did in the moment. And I think that I set a decent price, not a great price, but 290 into 700, it's a pretty good price for me to try to hit another card on the turn. If I get called, I will take it down sometimes, of course. Like when they both have small pairs or 8-7 and don't want to continue, whatever. So anyway, they both called this time. So now we have a big ass pot here.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's like 16, there's 1.6 million in the middle, and the turn is the ace of spades. So now we have 2 spades and 2 diamonds on the board, and I have top pair plus a gut shot straight draw.
So we got the ace of diamonds, queen of spades, and the board is now jack of diamonds, 9 of spades, 8 of diamonds, and the turn was the ace of spades. So we got
ace of spades.
Ace of spades. So we got top pair with a good kicker. How much did you say was in the middle? I didn't add it up. 1 point.
It's about 1 point. Let me see. It was 700 plus 900, so it's like 1.6 million in there.
Okay.
Yeah, and the first guy checks to me, so it's on me now.
Big blind checks. I'm probably checking. We got. Okay. We can't. What are we going to get called by if we? That's worse than us if we bet here. Well, we'll get called by probably like 9-10. Okay, so we'll get called by some of those draws. Maybe this is a bet.
There's a ton of hands that can call us if we bet again.
Yeah. Jack 10, 9-10, 8-10.
Any 2 diamonds.
Ace 10.
Yeah. Diamond draws.
Any 2 diamonds. Now, if somehow they got there in the turn with 2 spades, like they had Jack X of spades, then that would make sense. Okay.
Yeah. Now they have a flush draw with the spades as well. I didn't even think of that at first, but yeah. Okay, so I feel like.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Into 1.6.
There is value in betting. There's also value in checking.
I'm going to go into 1.6. I'm debating between like 5 to 7. I'll just throw it in the middle. I'll bet 600.
Is that okay with you, Mike?
Yeah. I'm still trying to think about the checking here versus because the ace could help their range too. Obviously, they could have some 2-pair combos. Yep. I'm just wondering what I do if I get raised here with the ace. But checking puts you in a tough spot too. Sorry to take it back because these GTO Euros, if you check, you're obviously checking back ace king or ace queen. They're going to put you on that a lot, and they're not just going to take they're not just going to take a stab on it. They're going to bet here and shove river.
Right? Exactly.
So I think betting, you can get called by worse for sure. There's a strong argument for that. I think that's probably the you're betting for value here, sure. So yeah.
So
you're betting, Mike, or you're checking? What are you doing?
I guess betting. I'm thinking of absolutely bombing it here, though.
Oh,
okay.
It takes away there. It's going to make it pretty hard for them to bluff you off the hand. And, there's nothing wrong with folding them off their equity here either.
Yeah,
I mean, there's a lot of chips. There's a lot of chips out there. So, I mean, I'm sorry, how many chips are in the pot right now?
1.6 million.
I mean, I'm thinking like 1.25 million, 1.4 million. I'm thinking of betting big here. Yeah, I think I'm either checking or bombing it.
All right.
I don't know why. I just throw shit out there. I never know the answer to any of this shit. If you want good advice, go to Brocus and Mavis here, for God's sakes, man.
I'm trying to think, like, if we bet 1.6 here, like, what's a guy doing with Jack 10?
I think most players are calling.
I think so. Now, what about 9-10?
Yeah, I think they're calling with any pair and straight draw.
Okay,
I don't know if they should, but I think most guys do.
Then we have
the stack edge, but it's not like these guys started the hand shallow. They each had like 75 bigs to start the hand. So
yeah, they're both around 6 million. So I made it 550. I just bet 550. I was planning to fold to a raise. I'm worried about Queen 10. I'm worried about sets, although I kind of agree with Mike that I have more sets than they do. I'm worried about two pair hands like Ace Jack, Ace 9.
I think sets are probably raising on the flop. Most of the time.
Not always though. These Euros can do they mix it up. They're GTO like Mike said. These guys that you can't really rule it out. I agree that they will raise sometimes because it's such a wet board, but these guys are more than capable of like flopping a set and waiting till the turn.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. So only Bastelot from the Netherlands called.
So that was the button or the big blind?
Folded, correct.
That's the button.
Button, okay.
Yeah. So now we have 2.7 million in the middle. And my opponent has about 5 million behind.
Okay.
The river is the 4 of clubs. And I'm first to act. I still just have one pair. I shouldn't say just, but I have top pair with a queen kicker.
What do we look like from his perspective?
Oh, I should mention that my opponent didn't like snap call on the flop. He took about a minute to a minute and a half to call, and the other guy folded instantly. Yeah, so I don't know how much we want to read into that. But
you mean on the turn?
I meant on the turn.
Okay,
yeah.
On the turn. All right.
Yeah, I don't know what I said, but I meant the turn.
Okay.
I think this is a clear bet fold spot. Although again, these Euros are capable of shoving here. You don't really want to bet fold against top players. I think is normally a rule, but in this spot, I don't know how frequently they're shoving over you as a bluff. If that's what your concern is, if you'd rather check call. But I think you can bet for value here. Do they get sticky with Jack X? I don't know. If you're betting, I guess you're betting small here, right?
Yeah, I guess if you're betting here,
or do you bet big, make it look like a bluff, and just kind of. I mean, they do have some aces in their range too. Not, I guess only ace 10 would be in their range, right?
That's the only one I can come up
unless
with.
Unless they had
ace
X of diamonds, somehow.
No,
well, you got the diamond.
Yeah. And they can't have ace X of spades because the ace of spades is out there. So I was trying to think, if we check here, then does he fire a naked 10? But there really aren't any naked 10s in his range except for king 10 and ace 10, which is probably going to check back anyhow, and we don't get value from that. I think you're right, man. Mike, I was thinking, can we really go three streets here with a one pair hand? But I think we can, just squeak out a little value here from maybe if he's sticky with the jack, or if he hit the ace as well.
So you guys want to bet?
Yeah, I kind of do. I think it's bet fold. And I don't know. What's your impression of this guy? Is he just
checking,
jamming rivers as a bluff, you think, or?
No. Yeah, as I mentioned, I haven't seen him do anything quite like that at this table. My table's been really wild. The chips are flying.
Okay.
And I've had the impression that he's been kind of waiting to pick his spot. I'm not sure if he's going to take this spot like as a time to just put in 5 million.
Yeah, like I said,
you know,
it's a bad. If you check here, it is a bad board for him to bluff at. So that's what I'm just thinking. If we're trying to bluff catch, and hoping he takes a shot at it, yeah, it looks like you've got a pair for sure.
Let me add something to the mix here.
Okay.
I feel like my opponent, if he has a 10, something like 10-9, Jack 10, those type of hands, a pair and a straight draw, I think he's very good at poker and capable of recognizing that his hand is probably no good, and that if he wants to win this pot, he's going to need to bluff with it. I don't know if he would necessarily do that if I bet, but I feel like that's part of his strategy when I check. And so if I check, I kind of need to be ready to, bluff catch with my pair of aces.
Yeah, so, a check call is good then. If you think he's got some bluffs in his range there.
Yeah.
That you think that he'll turn Jack 10 into a bluff?
I think that he will sometimes do that, recognizing that there's a good chance Jack 10 is
8-10 or 9-10 or okay.
Yeah, because I bet twice already.
Yeah.
And I know if he just has like a naked flush draw, something like, let's say, like 5-4 of diamonds, just kind of come up with one. Yeah, okay, a meaningless pair of fours on the river, 4 clubs.
Yeah.
He would almost certainly turn those hands into a bluff some of the time, because he clearly knows that he doesn't have enough showdown value. If he made like a pair of fours or something like that with like any 2 diamonds, I think would probably. But the problem is I have the ace of diamonds, so a lot of his diamond hands are out of his range because I have one of the cards.
That's what I keep running through right here. I'm like, oh, he could have king, queen of spades. That would. Oh no, we have the queen of spades. And then I come up with all these diamond. Oh, we have the ace of diamonds. So.
Yeah, we have blockers to a lot of his bluffs. So
yeah, you know what? You might be right. Maybe this is a check, and then you just have to accept that you just got to call, and it's going to suck.
Yeah.
But he has no other option than to bluff at it, and I don't think you have any other option than to call.
I think I would check and call pretty cheerfully. Like I think ace queen is good enough. If he makes a normal bet like half the pot, I think I'm pretty happy to call.
It's pretty easy call.
Yeah,
I mean,
if he's got it, I'm picturing him potting it or even going bigger, then that would suck. But
okay, yeah, it does suck because that's what happens. I check and he shoves.
Oh God!
But first he tanks for over 2 minutes, and I called the clock.
You called the clock?
So and I've been doing that a lot. If you watched any of the coverage, like I'm a clock caller. Like I'm going to try to take away the stigma of calling the clock. I've been complaining openly about how slow my table is getting. And this guy, he already tanked for like a minute to a minute and a half on the turn. And now you're freaking tanking again. Like, make a move.
Yeah.
And I didn't do it. I didn't do it in a rude way. I just said, I think you've been thinking about this long enough. Clock, please. And as soon as I said that, he moved all in.
I was just going to ask that, actually. I was going to say, is he ever just flatting the nuts on the turn? Or is he always raising at that point? Jacks, a set, and a straight.
This guy's an excellent player. I think he's balanced, and that I wouldn't apply always to anything.
Right. That would be the standard, though, is to not jump into action there with a monster hand on the turn. So help me with the pot size here matters, Steve. Sorry, this time
2.7 in the middle, and he's got like 5 mil, right? So he overbet it by 2x.
So he should. Yeah, he's bet almost twice the pot.
Okay, so that means that our hand has to be good 66% of the time if he bet twice the pot.
That's correct.
Don't know that it is. Are we good here 2/3 of the time? Man,
would he play a straight this way? Would he, if he had a monster, would he play it this way though? I would think he'd be going for value there a lot.
See, that's the thing.
But maybe he's just he's ranging you very well. He's putting you on ace king or ace queen, and he wants the bet to look really polarized with all the misdraws out there. Would he do with this with 2 pair?
I don't think he would do this with 2 pair.
What was his demeanor like? We talked before about how was your Spidey sets. Does he feel nutted, or are you just getting nothing?
I got nothing.
You got nothing. Okay.
I was shocked by the bet. I thought his decision was between trying to bluff with his missed draw or checking back one pair and seeing if it was good. Yeah. I didn't think shoving was going to happen. I didn't feel like he had a shoving range. I was shocked when he did it. And then I took a little tank of my own. Yeah. The guy who's been calling the clock on everybody. I think this was the longest tank of my whole career, to be honest. Trying to figure out what the hell to do here.
God, I could see myself doing either way. I think in the end, I probably just fold and be like, nice bluff, sir. You got me. But I don't know. It just feels like 2 pair or better, or like he turned 10-8 into a bluff, or the missed diamond draw, like you were saying. I
don't think he does this with 2 pair. I think he does this with the nuts. I think he does this with queen 10 or nothing. It felt really polarized to me. It just doesn't seem like the right bet size for 2 pair.
Yeah, you might be right.
Well, if that's your read, I think I don't know, man. I just think he raises. He probably playing a mixed strategy. So the queen 10 on the turn, he's probably flatting sometimes, but he's got to be raising a lot.
80%. And it's hard for him to have queen 10 as well because I have a queen.
Yeah, he's got 12 combos of it.
Yeah, 80% plus of the time, I think he's raising the queen 10 there. I
disagree with that, by the way.
You do? Okay.
Yeah, I think he's balanced. I don't think it's 80%. I think that sometimes he's just going to, hope that I bet the river, so he can get more value or whatever. I think especially with the ace on the turn, like if I don't have an ace and I bet 550, he doesn't want to raise that bet. He doesn't want to let me get away easy. He just calls. After a long tank, maybe with the nuts, he calls.
Well, I don't. Yeah, I'm not a great student of GTO, but I'd still consider 80%, 20% to be balanced on a certain level because you're not always raising the nuts. But I don't know, man. that's pricey.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this, Clayton. Do you think that he's almost always turning 10-8 and 9-8 into a bluff? Or do you think he's checking those back to see if his pair is good?
I think that
would be 2 pair. 9-8, right? Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. 9-10 and 8-10.
Yeah. I mean, we think he has a 10 a lot. So I think that his tank on the river is often going to be with those kind of hands. Like, should I bluff this or is my hand good enough to show down? I don't know. Maybe I should bluff it or maybe I should show it down. Like, I think when he tanks the river like that, but there's also the part of me that's like, well, does he realize that I seem to get annoyed when people take a long time? So he's not going to shove the nuts until I finally call the clock on him.
And that was interesting that he shoved as soon as you called the clock.
Immediately, yeah.
Has he seen you call the clock on other players so far?
I've probably called 3 in the last 2 hours.
Oh, Jesus, yeah. Okay.
And I've done it in a nice way. I'm smiley. I've been happy. I've been joking around with everybody.
But he knows. He knows if he waits long enough, you're going to call it.
Yeah, so he's waiting to spring the trap or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, you were there live. If it's queen 10 or he's turning jack X into a bluff, or if it's a bluff, I think it's probably a call. Like my first thing was, well, I'd be worried that he could have a set. He could have 2 pair. He could have ace king somehow and be kind of merging that maybe to get you fold 2 pair or to. So I put a lot more hands that beat you in his range. It sounds like you only have one, which you also block, in which you agree he's going to be raising at least 50% on the turn. So in that case, it is a call.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess I should amend my range. it just felt like polarized, not necessarily the nuts or nothing, but I felt like it was polarized in the sense that it didn't feel like 2-pair or ace king. It felt like he either has a really, really strong hand that he's sure is good, or he has some other hand that he's pretty sure isn't good. You know,
Okay.
like bottom pair with a 10, like 10-8. Yeah. So I shouldn't have said it's always either the absolute stone cold nuts or nothing, but it didn't feel like he had any of those middle hands. Like it's not 9-8, you know, it's not like some weird 2-pair like Jack 9. It's just not.
Ace Jack.
No, I don't think so.
Okay. All right. I think it's called then because we got 12 combos of 8-10, 12 combos of King 10, 12 combos of 9-10. He's possibly even doing that with Jack 10 because he doesn't think Jack 10's good anymore. Then we got even more, which would put us ahead of the 66% that we needed. So, yeah. I guess I flick in a call.
Yeah, I couldn't flick in anything, man. I thought I tanked for over 2 minutes and folded. And I'm really, 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 really hoping that ESPN shows this one.
Yeah, that would be interesting to see what he had.
Now, this hand was not at a featured table, but before the dealer mucked his dead hand, after I folded my hand, the dealer killed my hand before the camera crew could stop him. But the director stopped the dealer. Wait, and only ESPN took a peek at those 2 cards.
Okay.
So they know what he had, and they asked me what I had.
Yeah.
So it might depend whether they believe me or they want to show a hand where they can't confirm that I'm telling the truth.
Yeah.
But it was a really interesting pot, especially with all the clock calling dynamics going on. Now, don't get me wrong, I wasn't like the enemy at the table. Like most people kind of agreed, like the table was getting slow, but I think they kind of like in this spot, he may have leveraged my desire to keep the game moving against me a little bit. Or just for dramatic.
The fact that you also bet small on the turn maybe keeps a few more bluffs in his range because he should be really strong there. Like even some of the 10x he should be folding. So at that point it should be like straights and I don't know. My first instinct was bet fold the river, but I didn't I'm like I don't know how that changes this. If he's that doesn't mean he's not capable of shoving it over you, which makes it even a tougher spot because you've got more chips in there, and his range is even strong.
Bigger pot when I fold.
But 5 million chips is 5 million chips deep in the main event. I mean, that's fucking 60 bigs, right, or something. So
yeah. I'll be honest, guys. I lost a little sleep over this one.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, like at that point, it's like it might not even be counting hand combos. It might be okay if you're bluffing, bud. Good deal.
Yeah. I mean, you just risked your whole tournament against the chip leader.
Yeah.
I'm second in chips in this whole room now, and he's shoving on me. So I don't think guys do that a lot.
Yeah, and this is a good reason against good players why you gotta check some rivers with big hands too.
Yeah.
You gotta balance yourself. You gotta balance yourself in those spots. Otherwise, you just get owned here when you're in check.
I pretty much never have queen 10, and he knows it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And
well, God damn it, man. I really was hoping this was a TV hand that I missed because I want to know what the fucking guy has.
So do I.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they had the Clayton camera on me all day. And when this pot started getting big, the whole crew came around, the microphones and everything. They heard me call the clock. They saw me like tanking, like they have the footage.
Yeah.
It's just a question of if they use it or not. But I'm dying to know what he had.
Yeah.
So but I do have to run, guys. I'm already late for something, but I just really wanted to discuss that hand because I haven't talked about that one on any other show, and I'm not even sure it's going to make TV.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you, Clayton. This was awesome. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, my pleasure. I really love talking to you guys about the hands, and you're no help. I mean, you guys don't give me any good advice, but it's still fun.
That's great, dude.
It's still fun to do, even though it's basically
I just listen to bad advice for an hour and a half and then go on about my day. It's great.
Let's tell Four Eyes to get to the back of the bus. He's no longer the 18 here, man.
That's great.
Love you guys. Thanks for having me on again. Appreciate it.
Right on. Thank you, Clayton. And you guys can follow Clayton at Clayton Comic on Twitter. Check out his show at the Broadway Comedy Club. You can follow Mike at Mike Snyderman on Twitter and me at HUP Podcast. Thank you for tuning in. And here is your weekly motivational speech.
You know what I hear? I hear the clock ticking. Time waits for no man. Life goes by, and it goes by quick. Don't waste those years. Don't waste them. Live them. Back off? Negative. Not happening. In fact, I'm stepping it up. No complacency. No complacency. No backing off. No slack whatsoever. Bring it. Fight. Fight that ticking clock with everything you got. And the earlier you get in the game and get on track, the better life you're gonna have. Healthier, wealthier, stronger, smarter, better. Go through the motions. I don't really want to work out. I work out. Don't really want to get up and get out of bed. I get up and get out of bed. Don't give in to the immediate gratification that is whispering in your ear. The desire to take the path of least resistance, the downhill path, the easy path. Shut that down. Do not listen to that little voice. Instead, go through the motions. Lift the weights, sprint the hill, get out of bed, get things done. And by simply going through the motions, you stayed on the righteous path, the disciplined path, which is right where you know that you belong.
If you grind on Monday, and you grind on Tuesday, and you grind on Wednesday, but you chill on Thursday, and you chill on Friday, and they grind on Thursday, and they grind on Friday, sooner or later they gonna catch you. I told every kid in America that tell me they coming for me, you gonna work hard for it. Because I'm gonna find out what the benchmarks are, I'm gonna reach the benchmarks, and I'm gonna excel that thing. You will not outwork me! I'm going to grind. I'm going to fight. I'm going to work. I'm going to press toward. I'm going to do everything in my power every single day to become a victor and not a victim. This is the part where life demands that you make a vow, come hell or high water, that you're willing to pay the price, where you earn your spot with effort, with sweat, with blood, with tears. It's time to test your will, your endurance, your heart, to test your limits.